Most founders think the biggest threat to their business is competition, cash flow, or timing. But what if the real bottleneck is happening entirely inside their own head? Fear, doubt, hesitation, dressed up as being careful. Welcome to AIBiz, where we break down big ideas in AI, business, and leadership into practical conversations you can actually use. I am Yusuf, and today I'm joined by Patrick J. Sweeney II, a serial technology founder, a best selling author, former Olympic level athlete, and world record holder who spent decades studying why smart, capable founder still get stuck. We are diving into his Buddha doctrine, how fear and doubt derail hypergrowth, and what it really takes to make fearless decisions at scale. If you want to grow faster, think clearer, and stop second guessing yourself, this conversation is for you. With that, I welcome my guest Patrick to the show.
Yusuf, thank you so much for having me today. And thanks to all the listeners for taking the time to tune in and listen to us.
Perfect. Patrick, you have operated in extreme environments, elite sports, startups, and high stakes leadership. When you look back, when did you first realize fear, not resources, was the limiter for most founders?
I had a before and after experience, a near-death experience. And before that, that time, I was trying to build business. I was trying to make a lot of money. I had one goal, and that was to make 40 by 40, a net worth of $40 million before I hit 40 years old. And that was the only thing I cared about. But I was doing that. My motivation was fear. I was always afraid. I felt ashamed because I was afraid. And so this cycle kept me thinking, okay, well, if I make a lot of money, then people will respect me and I'll have courage and I'll be strong. And my first company was a fantastic company. Unfortunately, I had a very good co-founder who is much older than me and helped us grow. But I think I made every mistake a first-time CEO could make when we started Server Vault. We raised about $30 million in venture capital and debt, and we built the really what was the first cloud hosting platform. So we had very high security. And this is the cloud we built was before about 4 years before Amazon even started getting into AWS, Amazon Web Services, their cloud. So we were way ahead of the time. And my whole motivation, though, was that fear-based motivation. And so we kept running into the same walls, right? We'd have these challenges with our venture capitalists. We'd have these challenges with customers, and they were the same thing repeating themselves. And I had this mindset that I had to fight everything. Everything was going to be a battle because I was afraid if I didn't fight, we'd lose and I'd lose the company. And I had all these fears. Then I went through this near-death experience, and on the other side of that, I came out and I went back to the office. It took a while for my immune system to build back up, but I went back to the office, and instead of wearing the $5,000 custom tailored suit that I used to wear so I'd look good and look powerful, I showed up in a t-shirt and a pair of jeans, and half the company was like, "Who is this guy?" And it was the real, honest, authentic me. And I said, "Look, we lost one of our biggest customers. We lost our chief operating officer, and we might have 2 months, 3 months left to live. But here's the plan, and here's what I need you guys to do, and I need everyone to tell me what they think we should be doing." And so people were shocked at first because I was always the guy with the answers. I'd go in strong and because I didn't want to appear weak. And so going in there, being vulnerable, opening myself up completely, just turned the tables on from a leadership perspective. So it gave me a lot more respect, and people were a lot more willing to do things because my motivation changed from fear to, hey, I want to keep building this team. people here who are paying for their kids' tuition at college, who are buying new houses, and their salary is dependent on paying a mortgage. And I don't want to let all these people down who are part of our company. And so it was a change in mindset from I want to do this for my own selfish, egotistical reasons to I want to do this for an impact on the world, for common good, for doing something that leaves the world a little bit better place than when I got here.
Wow. But there is a common belief, and most of the founders say it, that fear keeps them sharp. Where do you see that belief break down in real companies?
So I think fear absolutely keeps you sharp. So my last book, not the new one that I've got coming out, my last book is called Fear is Fuel. And the whole idea behind it was number 5 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list.
Right.
And the whole idea is that when you encounter fear, you can either succumb to it like our caveman ancestors would,
Mm.
or you can use it as a really high performing fuel to make yourself more successful, better, your company stronger, all these things. And the way you use fear as fuel is first you have to recognize that you're having a fearful moment. So when we get afraid, when something happens that we didn't predict, that we didn't think was going to happen, then the primitive part of our brain, the lizard brain, a lot of people refer to it, it's run by your fear center, which is called the amygdala. The amygdala is a
Mm.
small almond-shaped gland that sits right here, one on each side, and they handle the 3 Fs: fight, flight, or freeze. And so when we get scared, our brain is actually a prediction engine. So we try and predict everything that's going to happen as it happens. And when we don't predict something, we have surprise and uncertainty. It creates something called free energy, and that free energy turns into a feeling of fear for most people. Right, your stomach gets tight, or your shoulders get tight, or maybe your jaw, or you start to sweat, and your heart starts beating like
Yeah.
crazy. And those are all the signs that your amygdala is trying to hijack the rest of your brain, the thinking part
Mm.
of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. So when the amygdala hijacks, you produce this fear cocktail. Your body releases cortisol and DHEA, epinephrine, all these things that get you ready to fight or to flee very fast. Your blood goes out of your digestive system, it goes into your muscles, your blood-brain barrier opens up so you get more oxygen to your brain, your eyes pupils dilate so
Mm.
you can see better. So all these things turn you into, a superhuman. And if you can be in that fear state and you realize what's just happening is you're getting a chance to make a decision one of two ways. You either make it out of fear or you make it out of opportunity. So that's how we make every decision, either out of fear or out of opportunity. And so if we feel these feelings and we think, okay, that's an early warning system. We have an opportunity to do something here. Now I got to figure out what it is. And you sort of step back, and the first thing you need to learn how to do is breathe. And I always teach something called a 4x4, which is breathe in for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, hold it out for a count of 4, and repeat that cycle. And Navy SEALs call it box breathing. So 4, 4, 4, 4. And when you do that, what happens is whatever made you scared was probably what neuroscientists call top-down information. So you got scared because your eyes, your ears, your nose all took in data about what's happening in the world, and it triggered your amygdala. Somewhere in that primitive brain, it said there's danger here. There's a snake in the grass, there's a lion behind the tree, whatever it is. It gave you that same response. Now, we also take information bottom up. So that top down information is all the external stuff. If you start breathing when you get that feeling, you start doing those 4x4s, then what happens is your brain says, okay, well, we aren't panting real hard. We're not out of control. We've got a very steady respiratory rate, and that's coming in from the bottom up. Your brain says, okay, shut off the amygdala because we're not really in danger. So
Yeah.
so it's being able to stop that amygdala hijacking and then realize, okay, the thing that made me scared is some form of uncertainty, some unknown. I've got to get comfortable with that. and then move towards it. Because at the end of the day, one of the things I found out in this, incredible life that I've had, all your dreams are on the other side of fear. So you might not think it now, but when you have the fearful moment, if you can get to the other side of it, it's like nirvana. And some things are bigger than others, but that's in general, fear can be a great opportunity seeker for you. It can let you know when you've got a really good chance to change your life.
Yeah. What I could make sense of your answer is that fear doesn't make decisions better. It just makes them slower and smaller, and over time that compounds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The thing entrepreneurs, and this is a huge opportunity for AI, of course. The thing entrepreneurs have to realize is there's no good news, there's no bad news, there's only data. Right? And so if you're running a business and something said, "Oh, that's terrible news," that doesn't have to be terrible news, right? It's just data that you come back. And if it's data that cost you money, if you made a mistake and you hired a bunch of developers to do something and then you figured out that was the wrong thing, then you just paid tuition, right? That was
Mhm.
don't look at it as I just wasted money. Look at it as, look, we learned so much from that first, that first prototype, that now we're going to make the second one even better and it'll be more successful and that sort of thing. So it's the ability to realize there's no good day, no good news, no bad news, just data. And then the other thing is we have to get through this cycle, and this is where the Buddha doctrine comes in from my new book. And the new book, of course, is the Founder's Creed, and it's available March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. But the thing that we talk about, Buddha isn't like the little guy with the belly. Buddha is B.O.O.D.A, and it's an acronym for believe, observe, orient, decide, and act. So that's the Buddha. And the Buddha came from a military doctrine called the OODA loop without the B. And the OODA loop was created by a fighter pilot instructor from the US Air Force in the late 1960s. He was the best pilot ever to come out of the United States, and his name was John Boyd. And as a fighter pilot instructor, he'd bring new students in and he'd say, "Okay, you can get directly behind me on my 6 o'clock. So in a perfect shot, perfect opportunity for a kill shot. And within 40 seconds, I'll outmaneuver you, get behind you, and fire the kill shot." And he said, "I'll bet anyone who wants to try it a steak dinner." And he never lost. He was an instructor for 10 years at basically the Top Gun school, and he never lost. So he got the nickname of 42nd Boyd. And what he figured, Yusuf, was the strategy is all about who can get through these decision loops the fastest. And first you observe. So you look around for everything in the environment and you take in as much data as you can. Then you orient yourself based on your training, based on your upbringing, based on your experiences. You try and make meaning of everything that you see. And then you decide, and you decide quickly and decisively, and then you act. And as soon as you act, you've created new data. So now you have to look at your belief again. Do you believe the same thing now that you've gotten this information? Because the Army didn't need, or the Air Force didn't need belief in front of their OODA loop, right? Because they had pilots who knew they were absolutely the best pilots in the world. They knew they flew the best the fighter planes. They knew they had the best electronics. They knew they spent most time training. Nobody in the world doubts that US fighter pilots and Top Gun pilots are the best in the world. So they had that inherent belief. But when you adopt this framework to startup, you have to realize that most founders, and I'm sure you've seen this in your audience, most founders are looking at the world 5 years, 10 years ahead of everybody else. So when Sam Altman, in 2015 started OpenAI, and no one even thought AI was going to be a thing. No one heard about him. And then finally in 2023, 7 years later, he releases this incredible change in the world, because 7 years ago, he had a view of how the world was going to be now. Everyone else had the world worldview of how it is. And so you have to have belief because there's this thing in between your vision and the rest of the world, and that's what I call the belief gap, right? You've got to cross that gap to get the rest of the world to believe.
Wow, incredible. Patrick, is there any way for our listeners to connect with you?
100%, Yusuf. It's the best way is probably LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, I'm the Fear Guru. You can search Patrick Sweeney, but my handle is just the Fear Guru, and it's also the same on Instagram, the Fear Guru as well. So hit me up on LinkedIn, Instagram. If your listeners liked our conversation and what we were talking about and some of the things, my new book coming out is called The Founder's Creed, and you can pre-order it now on Amazon and on my website, thefounderscreed.com. And so that comes out March 17th, and that releases the B.O.O.D.A doctrine. So it goes through all of this and how you can apply it in your company to become a hyper growth company and scale up. And my goal, Yusuf, with the Founders Creed book is to help create 1,000 unicorns and help 100,000 entrepreneurs reach their dreams and all the success that they want. So that's the idea behind the book.
Um, Patrick, is there any last message that you want us to leave?
Yeah, I'd say for your founders, one thing that's important. I do public speaking all the time, and I speak a lot for this organization called YPO, Young Presidents Organization, which I've been a part of for about 12 years. And it's a global organization of about 6,000, 7,000 CEOs, I think. And you have to have a certain size of a company to join. And so there's huge companies like Facebook or Dell Computers or the massive companies and really smart CEOs. And I've spoken to hundreds of them. And normally when I do a speech, it's 2 or 300 at a time, but I spend a lot of time afterwards speaking with them or having dinner. And I want all your listeners to know, I would say 90% of the CEOs that I've spoken with, including myself, at one time or another have felt this fear of imposter syndrome, right? You feel like, what am I doing up here on stage? Or how can I run this company? No one's ever done an AI company like this before. No one's ever built electric cars like this before. And at some point, every CEO goes through that imposter syndrome. So if you've got listeners who are going through that now, they should just know that the world's top CEOs have the same thing. Just let it pass, get through it, get back to focusing on doing those Buddha loops and getting through things quicker and having great operational hygiene and excellence. And if you just focus on what you have to do day to day, that imposter syndrome will soon be, far in the rearview mirror.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us today and sharing your wisdom, information this openly.
It's an absolute pleasure to do it, Yusuf, and I really appreciate the audience taking the time out and listening to it. And hopefully, I'll connect with some of your listeners soon.
Indeed, indeed. And to our listeners, if today's conversation resonated, take a moment to notice where fear might be showing you down more than facts ever could. Fear doesn't disappear at higher levels, but leaders who grow fast learn to recognize it early and stop letting it vote on their biggest decisions. This has been AIBiz. If you found value here, share the episode with a founder or leader who's ready to think bigger and decide faster. We'll see you next time.